All right, hey everyone, welcome to SHOT Show 2025. I'm William Kirk with Washington Gun Law, but more importantly, we've got Jared Yanis right here from Guns and Gadgets. Jared, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, buddy.
Hey, listen, what we're going to be doing with these interviews is we can sit here and get real serious and talk about Second Amendment stuff, but you guys geek out on that stuff all along. I know you're all big fans of his channel. I want to talk to Jared about a few things and just kind of so that you get to know these creators a little bit better and talk about some of their other passion projects. We all know how passionate we are about Second Amendment issues. I want to talk to you later on in this interview about something that you're very passionate of that really kind of caught my attention last night. But first of all, let's talk about Jared Yanis. How on God's green earth did you end up as a content creator? What's the journey to get you here?
Oh, geez, it's a long one. I've been doing it for over 11 years now.
Were you in law enforcement when you were a content creator as well?
Yeah.
Because so for a lot of you don't know, Jared was in law enforcement for how many years?
24.
24 years. Why don't you tell the viewers about some of your law enforcement experience?
Sure. So I grew up really rough and knew at an early age I wanted to be in law enforcement so that people didn't have to deal with what I was observing, what I saw. Started my career in 1997 in New Orleans, Louisiana. I was a cop there for 3 years. And if you know anything about New Orleans, we were the first class that was hired to clean the city up. And then I transferred back home to Massachusetts and finished my career there. I got injured on the job, destroyed my spine, and was forced to retire, which let me do what I really love to do full time. I was always into law, for obvious reasons.
Right.
And I taught at the academies.
Always passionate about the Second Amendment? Was that something
always,
you were born with? Or?
Always. I got to see people victimized at a very early age and realize that people should be able to protect themselves.
Well, did that have in part to do with you said you kind of grew up in a rough neighborhood, watching what was happening in your neighborhood?
Yeah.
You seen that? Yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
Really?
Yeah, it was rough.
Wow.
It was rough. And then while I used to teach at the academies, and I was always trying to translate some law for either a rookie or an older guy on the job with a new law, and I realized that most people don't have the ability to understand Old English. I mean, you understand, you're an attorney, so there are people who get it.
I don't understand why they write laws like that, to be honest with you, but yeah.
And there are people who can't get it.
Right.
They just can't get it. So I was already doing that to friends or neighboring departments, just translating law, especially gun stuff in Massachusetts.
Right, which is always a moving target.
Right.
Yeah.
They always move that goalpost. So I started the channel. Back then, everything was a holster review or a crazy cat video.
Is that how it got Guns and Gadgets to begin with? Because obviously you've branched far out from both Guns and Gadgets now.
Yeah, it was going to be a review channel.
Okay.
But I was the only one. It was single income. We had multiple kids and couldn't really afford to buy guns or gadgets. So I started to do back then when Massachusetts was changing their assault weapon ban stuff. Started to do videos about that, so people would be aware and translate the stuff coming out of the AG's office, and that kind of took off.
Yeah.
And I realized real quick that people had more of a thirst for that than a holster review every other month.
Well, don't you think that the Second Amendment community as a whole has this immense thirst for knowledge?
Yes.
And it goes far beyond just the tactical stuff and the equipment stuff and all that. They have a thirst for knowledge about the laws, about the legislative process, about politics in general. It's a very a community that wants to be educated.
Yeah, and because a lot of it's the way our education system's gone. They don't teach civics anymore. So
yeah.
A lot of people don't know
what they're teaching anymore,
right.
Jared.
Some people don't know how a bill becomes a law, right? So they want somebody to tell them how it
we
works.
don't have Schoolhouse Rock anymore, man.
Right.
You were in law enforcement, and law enforcement has taken a big shot on the chin the last few years. And I got two young boys. I got a 20-year-old boy at home. I got a 15-year-old boy at home. If either one of them came to me and said, Dad, I'm thinking about going in law enforcement, as noble of a profession as it is, I would be hesitant to say, yeah, go do that.
Yeah.
What's going on in law enforcement? How are we going to continue to fill our departments with fine young men and women in today's society? I'm worried.
Yeah, it's a tough question. The standards have changed. We have a country now that not just law enforcement, but military people can't even meet the basic requirements for that.
Yeah.
And it affects your draft pool, basically. So there are still good guys and gals who are on the job, still good guys and gals who want to do the job, but not enough.
Yeah.
With all the politics going on, it's affected the type of people you get going out for the job. And unfortunately, a lot of the solid people have left because they don't want to deal with politics.
Well, and so even if guys like with your big platform and my platform and everyone else, we're trying to promote, how great law enforcement is, it doesn't appear that mainstream media is going to play along with that game. I don't see how are we going to get young people to start seeing law enforcement in a different light than what they're currently seeing it.
I think a lot of it falls back on law enforcement itself.
Yeah.
I mean, if we bring it back to the Second Amendment, none of these unlawful bills that become law have any teeth unless law enforcement enforces it.
Well, that's true.
And that was always a big sticking point for me, especially in Massachusetts. If there shouldn't be a two different classes of people,
right?
Law enforcement and civilian. We have one constitution.
That's right.
We need to get back to that. Law enforcement has gone away from protecting the rights of people and gone more towards just trying to control.
Being an agent of government.
Yeah.
And one of the things, like, I don't know how much you covered Illinois, but during the Protect Illinois Communities Act, you had about 95% of the county sheriffs in Illinois say, no, to hell with you.
Right.
I'm not enforcing it. I would like to see more of that. What do you get in Massachusetts when crazy gun bills get kicking around there? Do you get any segment of the state that's just like, nope, not here in this jurisdiction?
Couple.
Yeah.
Massachusetts did away with the county government system a while ago, so there are sheriffs, but they're not law enforcement sheriffs. They pretty much run civil process or run the jails.
They're politicians that just...
Yeah, they're elected. And they want, every 7 years they get a term. And your chiefs of police typically are appointed, by the government of that town. So if the town is a liberal town, then you're going to get liberal leaders.
One of their own, yeah. Well, and you're beginning to see this in some of the larger cities now where they're trying to remove the sheriffs and stuff like that from being elected and just appointed by county council, so that this whole uniparty system can perpetuate even further and dig themselves in.
Yeah, it shouldn't happen. Like, sheriffs are in the sheriffs are supposed to be there. They're the number one law enforcement of that county. Chiefs of police and stuff like that aren't part of the original plan. If we go back to the original plan, I think the country will be a little bit better.
Yeah. All right, I want to hear one crazy law enforcement story. I mean, like, give us one really good one about the most bizarre thing. If you got to drop some adult content, that's fine. I want to hear it.
Real quick one. I worked a Mardi Gras one year in New Orleans, which is a big party for about 12 days.
Any alcohol-fueled problems going on with that one?
Yeah. So we were down on Bourbon Street, and a fight breaks out, which is
a day in the life.
Time.
Yeah.
And as we work our way through the crowd, and people are fighting each other for a 15-cent strand of beads, we look up to see who's throwing the beads, and it's Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre.
Oh, no way.
So we had to go up and hey guys, you need to stop because people are fighting over it.
How high did you get walking into the suite of Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre?
It definitely smelled like a green leafy vegetable.
You didn't have any drug tests the next couple of days with the department, hopefully?
Yeah, but they were pretty cool guys. They were pretty respectful, but that was interesting. You don't expect to meet, run into Death Row Records at Mardi Gras.
Yeah. So, but you made the great escape from Massachusetts, and was that really due to the fact that the livability issues with the politics, the cost of living, everything there just was not conducive for the Yanis family? Or
it had a big part to do with it because once I was forced to retire because of my injury, I was no longer beholden to the government. But the biggest part is I have children.
Yeah.
And the schools are so woke in Massachusetts, I refused to have my two youngest ones go through that. They started having questions come home that the kids shouldn't have questions about, like boys and girls, what am I today?
Or stuff that just frankly mom and dad should be able to deal with themselves.
Yeah, and I didn't want it.
Right.
So once I was no longer beholden to the state and I was free to go, I chose one of the freest places in the country.
And you're in Tennessee now.
Tennessee. Yeah.
You're loving it.
I absolutely love it.
How old are your kids?
24, 19, 11, and 10.
Well, that's a bad retirement strategy, bro. You got to stretch out there a little bit too much, man.
I'll be working forever.
Jesus. So 20 years from now, we'll be sitting down here with Jared Yanis. So your younger kids, though, they're going through the school system there in Tennessee and everything, and you're happy with it?
Yeah, it's not woke at all.
Yeah, it's not woke at all.
Great.
They teach them just how to read, write, add, subtract, that kind of
they
crap.
actually have values morals.
Two genders.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story how bad it's gotten in Washington State. So some people know Gun Law Jr. is usually one of the guys behind the camera, and when he was in high school, and I've always said that I'm very proud of my kid because he has his own independent voice. He's sitting there in like a human sexuality class learning about 34 different genders, right? And he raises his hand and says, hey, listen, I just got a question. I just came from my biology class, right? And I just learned there that every species has only two genders. can you help reconcile the difference? He got sent to the principal's office.
Of course, they can't answer that.
And then they made the big mistake. They called me to come down, right? And so my questions, I had the teacher there. I was like, was he respectful in the way he questioned? Well, yeah, your son's always respectful. I was like, did you answer the question? And I said, well, that's the problem here. It's like they don't, because that kind of questioning should almost be like, cherished. That someone's pushing back on you, but that again shows that quest, that thirst for knowledge.
Right.
But the public school system doesn't want that.
No, they don't reward that anymore.
No, they don't.
No.
They don't. Listen, last night, you guys may or may not know this, Jared won the Philanthropic Award at the Gundys. And it was a new award given, and it really goes for a person who went way above the call of duty. And you got up to accept your award last night, and I got to tell you, you got a little choked up on the stage. And then I got a little choked up because I know you as a person, and I could tell that this had a real emotional impact. It has to do with all of the people in North Carolina and Tennessee who got wiped out by this hurricane, and then the real tragedy began after that.
Yeah, it's.
So why don't you tell the viewers about what's going on out there?
Sure.
I want everyone, guys, I want you to listen carefully what's going on, because mainstream media is not covering this, okay? And Jared's living right there in the belly of the beast. And why don't you just tell them what's going on out there?
Yeah, so we have a portion of the government, it's called FEMA, right?
Yeah.
And we learned really quick the hard way in Appalachia that FEMA doesn't do what you think they do. Our area was decimated. A Category 4 hurricane parked over the mountains, which has never happened before.
Yeah.
Ever. Unfortunately, all the water that came down at the mountaintop has to find the lowest portion.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of homes and towns built in the hollers between the mountains, and they were just decimated with 25-foot swells of water.
So you had entire cities just completely wiped off their foundations.
There's stuff that's gone.
Yeah, just gone
totally
forever.
Gone.
Yeah.
And immediately, as soon as I was able to see what was going on in our area, I told my wife, we need to do everything we can to help. And to her credit, she was like, whatever you need, let's do it. And I'm blessed that I have an audience that is dedicated and caring, and they're willing to help out. They want to help.
Well, and we're blessed that you've worked your ass off for so many years to build that platform, because it doesn't happen naturally. It happens with a lot of hard work and dedication.
Right. So I have another friend in the industry. Bear Independent is his channel. He runs Grindstone Ministries out of Oklahoma. The first 12 hours, he called me and said, hey, first off, are you okay? And second off, we're coming to your area to help out. And what they do is they go to disaster areas. And they don't take 1 red cent from the government. They don't take any FEMA money. They don't take money from the victims. They just do it off of donations. It's a 501c3. And they came, and with help of my audience, we raised a lot of money. And I was able to give them a ton of money, give them a ton of supplies that I knew people needed. And gave some money to my church because they were helping neighborhoods. And just kind of played quarterback, give people what they needed. If they needed generators, I was on the phone finding generators. If they needed water, we were getting water. There was a couple times we actually had to hike stuff in because the roads were totally
the roads are
washed
gone.
out. Yeah,
Some of these places, they're just gone.
And then the good people that live in the communities, we took care of each other. The government wasn't there.
So when did it become apparent to the people in those communities that FEMA was not going to help any of them? How many days after the disaster did it become readily apparent?
Well, there are some people that still, I think to this day, haven't come down the mountain because they don't trust the government. FEMA, I was told, it was probably day 6 or 7, I was told that FEMA had set up in one of the local middle schools. So I had just bought these meta glasses, which you can record, and I was like, you know what, it's time to go ask FEMA what they're doing for the people.
Sure.
So I went in and I recorded, and go to the school, and there's nothing that says FEMA at all, so you wouldn't know they were there. Went in and asked the trooper, and he told me where they were set up. They were down in the back of the building, in the back of a gym. There were 4 people working, and I just went up. I'm like, hey, what are you doing for these people? Like, how can I help?
How can I help you help them?
Like, help us. We need the help.
Yeah,
you're here in a gym.
Yeah.
Like, what do you need?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we can't go anywhere because the roads are closed. I said, I'm driving all over the place getting help to people. Like, there's thousands of people who've come from all over the country.
Right.
And
I'm hiking shit in if
drove,
I have to.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they basically weren't doing it, literally anything. And then we found out that shortly after the hurricanes, it was like $1.8 million that was sent to our area by the federal government. And you'd be shocked to know that not one single dollar made it to a victim.
Well, and it was what, 1.8 million, you say?
1.8 million.
That's chump change.
Right.
I mean, that gives everyone in the community $4.42 or something is all you're going to get them.
FEMA was going to give everybody $720.
Yeah.
And most of the people who went to apply were denied. Because if you didn't lose everything and you still had something, you were denied. I mean, there were bodies everywhere. The death toll is terrible. It's still rising.
What's going to happen with these people?
You mean on the government side?
No, I'm talking about the people that matter to us, man.
Appalachia will rebuild. Like, Appalachians are taking care of Appalachians, just like after the fires in Hawaii. Hawaiians are helping Hawaiians. And as people outside of Los Angeles are learning, like, California's going to have to help Californians.
Well, yeah, listen, Gun Law has a little sister who works in Hollywood and works for America's Got Talent, Simon Cowell and all them. And she's one of those, I know how the world works because I live in Hollywood. And she's been having a very serious amount of red pill moments here because she's seeing now that, government will fail you.
There's not been one thing that government has ever put their hands on in the history of the earth that have made it better.
Sure. What did Ronald Reagan say?
Exactly.
Right?
Worst words.
The scariest words in the world.
I'm here to help.
I'm here from the government. I'm here to help.
Yeah, it's rough.
So, really important. All the viewers out there want to help out the folks in North Carolina and Tennessee. There's 1 million charitable organizations out there that say they're going to help. Some really do. Some are looking to make some money off someone else's misery. Why don't you tell the folks out there where they can give their money, where they know it's going to actually go and help the people who need it?
Absolutely. If you're not from the area, Samaritan's Purse is doing the Lord's work. They've been on the ground since day one. They're still there, and they're actually heading out to the fires as well. So they are definitely putting the money to use. If you're in the area, give to a church, because churches are still doing the Lord's work. My church, we adopted an entire neighborhood, and we're basically like, what do you need? We'll get it for you. We'll help you. We'll replace your furniture. We'll replace your appliances. And it's Americans helping Americans, man. That's how this country was supposed to be.
Hey, we're all we got, and we're all we need.
That's it.
But
there are still people in the mountains. It's middle of winter, 10 degrees during the day, 15 below at night.
Yeah.
And they're in tents with no electricity. They're kerosene heaters.
My God.
In 2025.
In a supposed first world country.
We had the Amish folks came up and they built a bunch of tiny homes for people in a week's time. And then the government from North Carolina came and told them they had to get out because they didn't have the proper permits.
Yeah. Well, wait until the folks in California start trying to rebuild.
Oh, yeah, all the permits.
Wait until that happens.
Yeah, it'll be 3-4 years before the permits come in.
Exactly. Listen, we got just a couple minutes left. Let's geek out on one thing.
Sure.
Guys, people like to tune in and geek out on this stuff. What do you think is going to happen with Snoop Brown and Ocean State Tactical?
The fact that they didn't dismiss it right away and deny cert, I think it could be good. I'm thinking that they're going to combine it with Snoop somehow.
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything come out today for it.
I checked it this morning, nothing yet.
So Friday it'll be kicked back to Friday again, which is also strategic for the Supreme Court because next Friday's cases will be the first on the next session of the court.
Yes. So that's a problem is that, if we gotten it on this term, we could have an answer by this summer.
Right.
Now we're looking at probably
next
the following term, which means the following summer. And we may have 2 justices that are interested in retiring now. Now, I personally believe that those 2 are going to stay on until they get to spike the football on this issue.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing too. Because initially, Alito had, it's Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito.
Yeah.
They were starting to talk about, hey, we're getting a little long on the tooth. And after, I think I did a video on it the day I heard it coming out of D.C. And within a couple days, Alito was like, I have no plan on retiring right now. So they hear us.
Yeah.
And it's good. I think they're going to stay on. Like, if we lose Clarence Thomas and we don't have a Republican president, the court's fundamental structure is done for a decade, for a generation. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Right now we have the most pro-2A court we've ever had.
We do, and actually President Trump is in a unique position that if Justice Thomas and Alito were to retire during his term, he will have appointed a majority of the Supreme Court justices. Isn't that crazy?
That's historic.
That is historic.
Yeah.
It is historic. The 2 that worry me, though, is Comey Barrett and then the Chief Justice after reading the Rahimi opinion.
Yeah, he's always wishy-washy anyway.
Yeah. So do you think there's a chance if they take Snope, if they take Ocean State, that we could actually lose that thing 5-4? You know, a more
anything's possible.
nuanced approach to deal with more modern societal
Anything's
problems.
possible, but I honestly think that they're going to take this up and drive home what the Second Amendment actually protects. Because they've alluded to it, as you know, several times, saying this. The last time we had an AWB case that was kicked down, Thomas said we shouldn't have kicked this down.
He was screaming from the mountaintop about that one.
They've said that numerous times Second Amendment's not a second-class right. I think this, if not now, when, right?
Right.
I don't think we get another bite at the apple.
Exactly. That's my alarm, by the way. Hey, listen, he is Jared Yanis. He's with Guns and Gadgets. Jared, why don't you tell all the viewers, in case they've been living under a rock for the last few years and they don't follow you, how they can get signed up and follow you right now?
Guns and Gadgets on every platform. My main platform is YouTube, but I'm on all the socials. Everything. I'm not on TikTok anymore. I got banned
You got banned from TikTok?
5 times, yeah. So I've given up.
I've given up on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's starting to come around now.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. Hey, listen, Jared Yanis, Guns and Gadgets, has one of the biggest platforms out there. He's got videos out every day. I love what you do because I love how you just talk in normal English. I love the fact that you do a lot of English translation.
Thank you.
That's exactly what the people need. Keep up the good work, brother. Thanks for being here.
You too, man. Keep killing it.
All right, take care, guys. Why in the year 2024 should anybody even think about having self-defense protection? Because, 25 years ago, we would have never had this conversation. So what's different today?
Bill, we really saw a need a number of years ago when the volatility and divisiveness of our country started to change drastically. And we, by the way, are gun people protecting gun people. We come from a significant gun background.
Right to bear, that's right. Legal protection for self-protection. Listen, good lawyers aren't cheap. Cheap lawyers aren't good. You're not truly prepared unless you have right to bear back you. You will always get an attorney-answered hotline, so you will always have a confidential phone call. There are no cap limits for either civil or criminal defense. This covers all forms of self-defense. So from a fist to a firearm, from a fat lip to a dead body, you are covered, and you will have some of the nation's most passionate 2A attorneys in your corner fighting for you. And right now, if you visit my friends at protectwithbear.com and you use the promo code WGL, you will receive 10% off. Listen, you need to protect yourself so that you can protect them. Visit my good friends at protectwithbear.com.